There's something so funny about just genuinely not understanding where this, like, these guys are weird narrative comes from, and failing to understand it failing to understand it so hard that you immediately contribute to the this guy is weird narrative. And
whether you like it or not,
all right, it's time to talk about Trump.
Becoming a drug-infested nation. So we better get our act together. You know, years ago,
and after the Trump portion, we'll do this. We'll do the census. Okay.
Centuries ago, China was taken over numerous times by smaller nations, much smaller nations, because they were all drugged out from the opium fields and all of that. And then one of their very powerful leaders said no more, and they ended it. And we're going to have to end it too, because we're really a country that is we're a failing nation in a lot of ways. What they've done to our country is incredible. What is Kamala, who's a total lightweight? Did you see her on television last night? This is going to be the president. This is going to be the president of our country. I don't think so. Sitting propped up in a desk with this guy, this Tampon. And it's the first interview she's done in, like, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And if you're too weak to do a one-on-one interview with a person that was so soft, you know, I know Dana, she's always, you know, always nasty. She was so nice to the Democrats. It's much easier to be a Democrat, but we don't agree on their policies because their policies will destroy our nation. So we can't do that. We can't do that. But it was a very weak interview from the standpoint of CNN. I think CNN should be ashamed of themselves. If that were me, aren't they? Sir, I heard you want the death penalty for drug dealers. Why? Well, you know, I'd like to end the drug epidemic, if that's okay. Remember this, and I said it, every drug dealer, on average, 500 people. That's not mentioning all of the families that are destroyed forever. They're destroyed forever. And we have to do something about it, because we are becoming, and we are, a drug-infested nation. We have to do something. And if you did that meaningfully, you will, in 1 week, stop the drug problem. No
He's the Sacklers.
Mr. President, and the rise of is on the minds of a lot of people. I want to call
And
on
then he did a
here.
hold on. This is the town hall that he did. He did a town hall with Tulsi Gabbard, everyone's favorite Fox News commentator. Hey, Hasan, he agrees with you. Nobody gets drugs. Wait, what? My policy of, like, heavily regulating drugs and still making it as, like, still disincentivizing people to do drugs and hoping that, like, we do not criminally prosecute drug users and instead deal with the issue like it's an addiction, which it is not the same as Donald Trump saying we're going to assassinate drug dealers. By the way, before you say, I saw some people in the chat saying, like, oh, Duterte, like, this is Duterte policy. Trump has literally talked about it at the time as a popular policy of Duterte's that he wanted to apply. So the drug dealer is not new. Like, he used to say that when Duterte was in charge and doing precisely that.
Who has a question for you?
Hi, Daniel. Well, you need, yeah, and you get a lot of those questions from Minnesota. But you get a lot of those questions because Minnesota, I mean, they picked this guy. He is weird. Huh? He's weird. I'm not weird. He's weird. No, he's a weird guy. He's a weird dude. You know, see, they come up with sound bites. They always have sound bites. And one of the things is that JD and I are weird. That guy is so straight. JD is he's doing a great job. Smart. Top
so
student,
straight.
Great guy. And he's not weird, and I'm not weird. I mean, we're a lot of things. We're not weird. I will tell you. But that guy is weird, don't you think? You know, he signed for, and this is, who would think that this is even happening in our country with men playing in women's sports and all of this? But he has it at a level that nobody can believe. A bill that every boy's bathroom will have tampons, okay? Hence his name, Tampon Tim. But think of it.
There's something so funny about just genuinely not understanding where this, like, these guys are weird narrative comes from and failing to understand it failing to understand it so hard that you immediately contribute to the this guy is weird narrative. And before you say, well, the crowd seems to be eating it up. Exactly, dude. He is so tuned into his base. That is the major problem with the Trump campaign as it stands currently. Okay? He's primed his base. And the more he leans into his base, the more he does this, like, crank, the less appealing he is to anyone who would ever look like who are like-minded, ideologically conservative, like-minded individuals who would look at him in a positive way.
Think of it. And you know, he is a 1 in the 9th month. And if the baby in Minnesota, and I'd love to win Minnesota because those people aren't digging this guy. They're not digging this guy. But think of this, 6 states, Minnesota's one of them. If the baby is born, you're allowed to the baby think of that, after birth in Minnesota, you're allowed to, and you remember the former governor, not the current governor.
Perhaps this is the reason why people say you're weird, because you make up and then lean into that made up in the most graphic ways possible. And that kind of commentary is probably good for your immediate base of support because they are the weirdos, but it literally does not translate to a national campaign. This is why they lost the supposed red wave at a time when they should have been running the table. It's crazy. Like, yeah, sure, those are the losers that are primed into loving you, but there are no there are no laws in the books that allow what Trump is saying. And lying about this kind of stuff and then being like really invested in this kind of thing makes you look weird to the average person. Which, by the way, I am reminded that I forgot to run the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour after I said I was going to do it. So I'm running it now, okay? I think I said I was going to serve it, and then I forgot. So I'm running it now.
Terrific.
There it is.
Glenn, maybe Virginia, we could do that. But the former governor, and he said, you sit the mother down and the father down, you sit them down and you talk, and the baby is born and you make a decision what to do. He meant, do you the baby after birth? And according to what they have passed and legislation, in Minnesota, they're allowed to the baby after birth. And this guy is a participant. And that's why she picked him, because she is, in fact,
I'm telling you, it's so funny, fine people, to straight up saying everyone that was born in the southern portion of the American borders is a rapist, criminal, and they're all doing it. He cut out the "and some are very fine people" part. So on that front, he escalated his rhetoric to become even more unhinged. And now he went from Democrats want to do 3rd trimester to like they are advocating for post-birth everywhere. Now, there's an issue. The issue is he's actively priming up his base of support into becoming increasingly unhinged. Electorally speaking, this plays really poorly, okay? It plays really poorly for his chances of winning the election, but there are still millions of Americans who now believe this. It's terrifying for the prospect of American future.
Marxist/communist. Remember, I'd say all the time, our country will never be socialist, right? We will not have a socialist. Well, I was right. We skipped socialism. We went to communism. This woman has to be.
Former President Trump, who is blitzing states in the Rust Belt and overnight making a promise about IVF. Selena Wang is in La Crosse, Wisconsin, where Trump held a town hall.
This was awesome. We've skipped socialism. We're at communism. Kamala Harris. Anyway, but also let's talk about Trump's flip-flop on IVF and abortion.
All last night. Good morning, Selena.
Hey, good morning, Rebecca. Donald Trump is trying to rebrand his image on women's reproductive rights in order to shake up this race, claiming that he would make IVF treatment free without giving any details on how that would work.
Overnight, Donald Trump floats a striking new proposal as he suddenly tries to rebrand himself on women's reproductive rights, an issue that he knows could hurt him at the polls in November. Trump claiming that he would make in vitro fertilization free if elected without providing any specifics on how he would pay for this costly plan or enact it.
Under the Trump administration, your government will pay for.
I love the one speed mainstream media has on this, where immediately they're like, well, how could they pay for it? I swear to God, every goddamn news broadcaster, editor in this nation, when they see a good policy, immediately they go, how will they pay for it? When they see a bad policy, they never ask it. Ain't nobody asking about how we're going to pay for the border bill. Ain't nobody asking how we're going to pay for like 20 additional trillions of dollars in babies for Israel. But the moment that like even Trump falsely claims he's going to do this thing that he's not going to do, okay, immediately, how will we pay for it? Like they're so conditioned to being like, oh, that sounds like good policy to me. Got to shoot that down immediately. Just tackle the issue on the front that he's not going to do it. Like, he's not a serious person. That's it. Tackle the issue on his flip-flopping if you want to do that. But no, they're like, how will they pay for it?
Or your insurance company will be mandated to pay for all costs associated with IVF treatment.
IVF can cost tens of thousands of dollars, with nearly 90,000 babies born in the U.S. through fertility treatments each year.
We want to produce babies in this country, right? We want to produce babies.
Vice President Kamala Harris' campaign telling ABC News Donald Trump's own platform could effectively ban IVF nationwide. Trump lies as much, if not more, than he breathes. But voters aren't stupid. Trump making this proposal despite repeatedly bragging about appointing 3 of the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade, opening the door to new restrictions for fertility treatments.
We broke Roe v. Wade, and we did something that nobody thought was possible. We gave it back to the states.
Earlier this year, Alabama Supreme Court declared frozen embryos human beings entitled to full rights, causing fertility clinics across the state to shut down for weeks. A new poll finding Harris has a 16-point advantage over Trump on who voters trust more to handle the issue of. In his own home state of Florida, Trump now saying he opposes the state's ban on that 6 weeks before most women even know they're pregnant.
Well, I think the 6 week is too short. It has to be more time. And so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Wow. He's woke. He went woke now. Or perhaps he is trying to desperately swing in the opposite direction, knowing full well how bad it looks for him, because this is an issue that the Democrats have actively campaigned on. Reluctantly, mind you, but they were forced to campaign on it eventually because there was too much popular momentum in that direction. Now, imagine if the Democrats did that same thing for any number of different issues that are plaguing American society. Healthcare comes to mind. Donald Trump literally is changing trajectory on a key issue here. He's going to flip-flop again on it, by the way. But I'm just saying, like, a better future, a better tomorrow is possible, chat. Okay? That's it. Obviously, he's not, like, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, no one trusts him. But the exact mirror opposite of this is happening with immigration.
Trump contradicting his own statements that the issue should be left to the states, and attempting to appease his base, later saying he has not yet decided how he will vote. He simply reiterated that he believes 6 weeks is too short.
Over the years, Donald Trump has flip-flopped on the issue of, but his focus on IVF is clearly an attempt to blunt Harris's attacks that he would rip away women's reproductive freedoms. Rebecca?
And Selena, there's also a new ABC News Ipsos poll out overnight. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Rebecca, that's right. In a new ABC News Ipsos poll, it finds that only 29% say that Trump is prepared to accept the outcome of this election. But Trump's election denialism also resonates with some voters. Despite there being no evidence of widespread voter fraud, 1 in 3 say they are not confident that votes will be accurately counted in this election. Rebecca?
All right, Selena, thank you.
Don't hit down.
You've been listening to Donald Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania, the former president there speaking with supporters shortly after saying that he will be voting to keep Florida's 6-week ban in place. Now, this comes just a day after he suggested that he opposed the 6-week ban. Let's bring in CNN's Jason Carroll. He is there at the Trump rally in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Also with us is CNN fact checker Daniel Dale. So, Jason, walk us through what Trump said yesterday and now what he and the campaign are saying today.
Well, as you recall, it was yesterday when this subject matter was brought up in an interview. Trump seemed to suggest that he was not satisfied, not happy with the 6-week time frame.
Is there is there a law that we're not privy to? Kind of like the Fairness Act or whatever, where both candidates have to literally make the same exact mistakes on other issues, but like the exact same mistakes in terms of messaging? Because it kind of feels like it's a race to the bottom. Like, on the one hand, Trump is like, yeah, I love it. Actually, just kidding, I hate it. And like, on the other hand, that's what the Democrats are doing on immigration. Like, is there like a secret rule where like they have to do that when one side triggers this flip-floppy ass sentiment, the other side also has to respond in kind for whatever their weakest issue is? This is why I was saying it's like, it's Freaky Friday out here. Kamala Harris is like, I literally will migrants. Like, I am the #1 migrant. Okay. It's my favorite thing to do. Sometimes I just, Sometimes I just sit up next to the border wall with an AR-15 and I take crack shots in the direction of like whatever Venezuelan is coming over that wall. Okay, that's what I do. And they're like, well, in 2019, you said like no immigrants should be illegal, like, and you said that border crossing should be continued to be prosecuted as a civil penalty. He's like, no, you don't understand. I want to migrants. And then on the other hand, you got Trump being like, they want babies. They want babies after birth. That's why I stopped it. And then being like, just kidding. Actually, I think that 6 weeks is far too short. We should let happen. It's not anymore. And we should let it happen until, like, I don't know, some other time frame that I will not be specifying, only to turn around and be like, that was the when I'm up, that's the real me. You know, that was yesterday's me. Let's not look at that. I was kidding. There's still
on that 6-week ban that's in place, saying that it is simply too restrictive. But he left the door open. He wasn't specific in terms of would he support overturning it? Would he give any more specifics in terms of timing? Just a short while ago, he gave an interview to Fox News where he once and for all was very clear in terms of where he stands. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Are you voting yes or no on Amendment 4 in Florida?
So I think 6 weeks, you need more time than 6 weeks. I've disagreed with that right from the early primaries. When I heard about it, I disagreed with it. At the same time, the Democrats are radical because the 9 months is just a ridiculous situation that where you can do it in the 9th month. And, you know, some of the states like Minnesota and other states have it where you could actually the baby after birth. And all of that stuff is unacceptable. So I'll be voting no for that reason.
oh
So a couple of things there. He says he will be voting
pussy. Oh, what happened? He got pushed, huh?
no for that reason. But to have to do a little bit of fact checking here, once again, we should just make it very clear. It is illegal in every state in the nation to a baby after it's born. I mean, something like that should go without saying, but we have to keep repeating it because the former president keeps repeating that false claim. But again, at least now we have some clarity in terms of where Trump stands on this 6-week ban in the state of Florida. He is now saying he does not support it, and he would vote no. Back to you.
Clarification, fact check there. And for more fact checking, let's bring in Daniel Dale. So, Daniel, what have you heard in these different sets of remarks by Trump?
He just keeps telling the same lies over and over, Alex. So not only this post-birth nonsense that we just heard a very good fact check of, but he also claimed the 2020 election was rigged. We've been hearing that since 2020. It remains a lie. He claimed that he signed an old law in 2020 that gave an automatic 10-year prison sentence to anyone who did so much as touch a monument during protests. He did not sign any new law or an old law on that subject, didn't sign anything. He issued an order calling on the DOJ to enforce existing laws, so nothing new. He repeated his nonsense about Venezuela and the Congo emptying prisons to allow criminals to come here as migrants. There is no proof for that in either case, and both the Democratic Republic of Congo and the neighboring Republic of Congo have told me it is completely false. He said that the numbers of people we lost to drugs are fake, and it's probably 350,000 per year. The official number is about 110,000 last year, and while experts have told me there is likely some undercount, there is no reasonable way to get as high as 300,000, the figure he used to use, let alone the 350,000 he used today. One expert told me this is a, quote, made-up number. Alex?
Yeah, Donald Trump bringing reproductive rights right back to the center of this campaign. Daniel Dale, Jason Carroll, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Let's get more on this with our political experts. Priscilla Alvarez, I want to start with you. This is a pretty remarkable turnaround from yesterday. The one thing he said that was the same both yesterday and today is that you need more time, basically more than 6 weeks for this ban, but today making it clear that he would vote against overturning it.
I mean, this tells you everything you need to know about how high of an issue this is for voters going into November. And it is also going to be used by the Harris campaign, which I have been following. In fact, the vice president at the beginning of this year started a reproductive rights tour. I was at her first stop, and this was a notable moment at the time because it's been a galvanizing issue for Democrats, and they were assigning it to her to essentially be the voice on it. In Arizona, she had a rally there, and she called it the Trump ban. She coined that term, and that was it. After that, They used it repeatedly. And it's these types of moments that they seize on to remind voters about what they say is Trump essentially allowing for these bans for being in this position in the first place because of the Supreme Court and the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So the campaign doing more of this.
What the fuck was that noise? Tim Walz 99 Ankara'na bana crack sattı. Dude, I have the weirdest chatters, man. Like, actually. This chatter is saying in Turkish that Tim Walz in 1995 at the Ankara metro station sold them crack.
Soon with a reproductive rights bus tour with at least 50 stops. So clearly a big issue.
Yeah, where they will certainly continue to hammer him on this. Josh Dawsey, I want to go to you. You obviously follow the former president and his campaign very closely. How much do you think this back and forth over this specific Florida amendment shows that...
Sit up. What the... Be a little bit more presentable, homie. What the hell? I don't even give a fuck about the optics or whatever, the aesthetics, but god damn, son. Who the
former president is really having a tough time here, trying to navigate this new era of post-Roe politics that he really helped create.
Yeah, he's having a tough time with this one because when he instituted the, it could be left up to the states. Trump saw that as a way to basically not have to take a position himself. Some of his advisors were pushing him to do 15-week national ban. He didn't want to take a position to himself.
Bro looks like a munchkin, dude. What the? I can't get over it. I'm sorry.
But because Florida is a state where he lives and he votes, this 6-week ban now he has to take a position on it. And when Florida did the 6-week ban on the campaign trail when Ron DeSantis was running for president, Trump immediately thought it was a huge mistake from DeSantis. He told folks, I don't get why he's doing it. What is he doing there? That's not going to be popular. That was his first original take. And he criticized that ban because he wanted to go after DeSantis. DeSantis he viewed as his political opponent, right? And he said, I don't think this ban makes sense. Then you saw the pro-life community come back pretty fiercely, deeply concerned that he was taking on a bill that would limit in Florida, something that they want to do very much. So,
holy Trump's, look at this.
In Florida, something that they want to do very much.
He got a ass on him, dude.
Concerned that he was taking on a bill that would limit.
He's like, yeah, y'all union lungheads better not try some. I'm the most tactical man in this goddamn arena. That's so funny. He is so hench. He is the most henchman-coded person I've ever seen.
They want to do very much. So really, for the last year or so, you've seen Trump vacillate on this issue, meeting with various groups, meeting with various activists, trying to do a place where he doesn't have to support things like he's having to do today.
And Charlie Dent, in terms of his difficulties in walking this line, when you hear Trump saying that he will now vote to keep the 6-week Florida ban in place, is that a recognition by the former president that he was facing significant blowback from the right flank?
Absolutely. Look, Donald Trump, has unfixed policy positions, and they shift constantly, and no more on the issue of. And I think the GOP recognizes that it is in an unsustainable position on the issue that they need to moderate. So I think Trump is correct by trying to moderate the position of the party. The problem that he has, of course, is that he's like the proverbial arsonist trying to extinguish the fire he helped start. And so he doesn't have a lot of credibility on this issue.
CNN has so many former Republicans. Yeah, they love that. God damn, CNN loves former Republicans. They love having current Republicans too. They love having former Republicans, current Republicans. They just love Republicans. At a certain point, you got to realize like they are totally locked in.
I was one of the last pro-choice Republican members of the House Republican Conference in Washington. And I've been sounding this alarm for some time that the party was not in a good place, that these positions, these 6-week bans and other sorts of policies were very unpopular and were damaging the GOP and certainly widening a gender gap, particularly with women. So I think the party's in a bad spot, and Trump is trying to fix it, but he is simply the wrong messenger on this.
Isn't that normal for a news source, having people from both sides? Brother, first of all, the American political spectrum is far more expansive than having like 3 former Republicans on a panel and like 1 Democrat or 1 leaning liberal, especially when you're supposed to be CNN. Okay? What's wrong with chatters, man? Like, ain't nobody says this about Fox News, bro. They say this is the communist news network. They say it's the Clinton news network. And you're like, but I don't get it. Like, of course they're supposed to have some Republicans. It's all they have, dude.
This issue. So in the pro-life community, I think they've miscalculated terribly. They cut a deal with a very transactional man, Donald Trump. And now they're shocked. They're shocked that he is now somehow coming back to a pro-choice position, not only on the 6-week bill, but he's also endorsed or he's not going to do anything to try to stop the movement of drugs across state lines. And so they're unhappy with him. What they're finding out, though, that Right to Life movement is that many Republican voters don't have that strongly held a position on this.
What do you mean? They have right-wing and left-wing Republicans. Yeah. They represent both sides of the political spectrum very well. They have conservatives from all different walks of life. What more could you want from CNN? They have former Republicans, they have current Republicans, they have Republicans in name only. They have all different kinds of Republicans. Some of them are literally square.
This issue, at least for these types of extreme policies.
Megan Hayes, let me bring you in. So Trump has been purposefully vague, trying to play both sides, trying to really straddle this line for quite some time now. Now he's quite firm that he's going to try to keep this 6-week ban in place in terms of at least the Florida amendment. Pick up where Priscilla left off in terms of how you expect the Harris campaign to seize on this.
Well, he's firm today, so we'll see what he says tomorrow because it's different than what he said yesterday. So I think that he's trying to muddy the waters and he's trying to create.
No, the Havana syndrome hoax is over. No, but so many Redditors told me I was wrong when I kept telling them and it's completely made up. Wait, what? I don't get it. Huh. The last 60-minute segment had literally zero evidence while they claimed they did. Yeah, I know. Spokesman for NIH said the internal review found that informed consent policies to join the study were not met due to coercion, although not on the part of the NIH researchers. Given the role of voluntary consent as a fundamental pillar of the ethical conduct of research, NIH has stopped the study out of an abundance of caution. She did not say who coerced the patients. Oh, I wonder who did. They did a whole 60 minutes law. I know. I was there. I covered it. And I yelled about it the entire time. Being a leftist is being right just too early. The 60 Minutes episode was one of the funniest things we watched ever on stream. Yeah, it was funny because it's like this devastating weapon. This devastating weapon makes you poop your pants. Like automatically. That's just hilarious, dude. Like this devastating secret weapon that somehow no one else is harmed by, that is able to beam like only the CIA agent in Havana and no one else in the near vicinity, okay? Like no one hears about it, no witnesses whatsoever. And what is the devastating consequence? It makes you feel anxiety and it makes you poop your pants.
Chaos, but I think what the Harris campaign is doing is they're picking up and they're going, this issue is very important to women. And it's very important to these independent women in these battleground states where this election is going to be decided. And they are playing it smart and they always have. This is a super popular issue and it polls really high. The Harris campaign is leading in the polls by 20 points with women. Those are the people who are going to decide this election. When you're talking 10,000 votes in these states, that's a major pickup. And then if he's going to isolate his base and maybe people won't turn out. So every vote matters in these battleground states. And so they are capitalizing on an issue that's extremely important to Democrats. And it's not just women, it's also men who live with who have moms and sisters and daughters. So when he's trying to muddy the waters and continue to go back and forth, it doesn't do anything but help Democrats and help the Harris campaign.
Some confusion over former President Donald.
See what JD Vance had to say about Trump's new remark about in Florida? Oh my Lord. Oh my God. We have to watch this. I'm sorry. JD Vance went on CNN to defend Donald Trump again. And it is hilarious. Also, before we get to that, here's Donald Trump saying, perhaps we should give Kamala Harris a Make America Great Again hat.
So Kamala was for defunding the police. She was for the open borders. She was for everything that you're not against. I could go through 14 different. She's changed on every single one of them. In fact, I think we should see the man in the red hat and the beautiful woman in the red hat says, "Make America Great Again." Perhaps we should give Kamala a Great Again hat, right?
So no census today then?
So Kamala was.
What the is the dilly machine or whatever? Dog, you're doing jib jab memes on Twitter. Like you're not fighting. Okay. After this is in the path of least resistance, even if that's what some voters may like telling themselves, your badass prosecutor who took on predators is making an affirmative choice to perpetually arm a nation that is institutionally dedicated to child rape and racial extermination. She's well aware what Israel does when they abduct Palestinian young enough to be her grandchildren. She almost assuredly knows far grimmer details than we do. Ask her specifically what she likes about it, because clearly there's something. God damn, Felix went crazy mode with it. Okay. I mean, it's right though. She's the badass prosecutor. Why doesn't she prosecute criminals, you know? After this, I'm going to do the census. After this, I'm going to do the census, okay? After this, the J.D. Vance stuff, I'm going to do the census. Fear not.
Donald Trump's position on an amendment on the ballot in Florida that would effectively overturn the state's 6-week ban. He is a Florida resident, and he was asked about this overnight.
Well, I think the 6 week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks.
So the campaign then put out a statement that said Trump has not yet said how he will vote on the ballot initiative in Florida. With me now is former President Trump's running mate, Republican Vice Presidential nominee, Senator J.D. Vance. Senator, great to have you with us. You can help us clear this up. How can you vote for more than 6 weeks without voting for the amendment?
Well, I think all the president is saying, and of course he's going to make his own announcement on how he's going to vote on the Florida bill, is that he thinks that there should be more than 6 weeks. And he's been very consistent in that. He says he doesn't like just 6 weeks. He obviously doesn't like late term.
Dude, this honestly, you have to be a unique kind of ladder climber with no self-respect whatsoever to like look at the last vice president and what happened to Donald Trump's like last vice president, who his entire fan base was like seeking to, and turn around and say, no, I'll sit in the cuck chair. That's how desperate I am for a crumb of power. And now he's just stuck in this perma cycle where everybody hates him. The Trump base hates him. And he's just sitting there constantly trying to defend Donald Trump when Trump will go out and be like, well, they say J.D. Vance is weird. Not me. They're saying J.D. is weird. And he is weird. What's up with his eyelashes? And he just has to sit there and be like, yeah, I am weird. I'm a weird guy. I am a weird guy. Everybody knows this. My president is right when he says I'm a weirdo, that I look like a baby, but a baby with a beard.
I think like a lot of Americans, the president is sort of somewhere else on this issue. And he's also said that he wants policy to be made by the states themselves individually and not by the national government. I think that's the most important thing.
You're disgusting. You hate America. This guy got so horny, he couldn't even write, you hate America. He said, you're disgusting. Hate you, America. You're not funny at all. You make me sick so much. There's a billion people who don't believe this. You want a white world because you lose the game. South will win. Palestine will... Wait, what? Oh, he's not talking to me. I think he's just talking to... Never mind. This guy's just angry at... I thought he was talking about me. Turns out he's just like angry at whatever the fuck is going on screen. French guy. Boss baby elegy. That's great. All right, let's continue.
He's, of course, opining on this as a Florida resident, but when it comes to national policy, John, President Trump has been extremely consistent that he wants a policy to be made by the states. Florida, California, Ohio, they're going to have different approaches.
When he said the South will win, I don't think he means like the American South. He means the global South, chatters.
That's okay. What he wants is to focus on eliminating inflation, bringing down the cost of groceries and housing.
Will you lump Hispanics with the whites in your census again? I'm indigenous from South America. I forget how we do the census here, but I don't think we lump Hispanics with whites in general. I think you're thinking about the American census, but we only have limited options, unfortunately. We have like 5. So whatever we've polled thus far, we'll continue polling in the same way.
Housing
I forgot,
and
it's been a
closing
while.
down that southern border that Kamala Harris opened up. That's where he's focused, and that's where we'll continue to focus for the remainder of the campaign.
He said he was going to vote for more than 6 weeks. So what's your understanding of how he will do that?
I got it.
Well, I think what he's saying is that he doesn't like doing it at just 6 weeks. Obviously, he's going to make his own judgment on how he ultimately votes on the amendment. I think he's probably making an argument about how he feels about the issue. He's not making some proclamation about how he's going to vote on the amendment. And of course, they clarified that he wasn't making an explicit determination of how he's going to vote or announcing anything. Look, the president, I'm sure, will tell the American people how he's going to vote on it eventually, but he wasn't making an announcement last night.
There was a period in Donald Trump's life where he was not, and then he became at one point suggesting that women should be punished if they haven't. Now he's saying he's for more than 6 weeks, but it's not clear how he's going to vote in an amendment in his own state. So that's why I think people are seeking clarity. You can understand that.
Well, John, the Dobbs decision, what it fundamentally did is this goes back to Democratic legislatures and the people, of course, who elect those legislatures. I think the president has said in a post-Roe, a post-Dobbs world, he wants voters to make these decisions. I think it's important to remember, of course, that Kamala Harris has come out for taxpayer-funded abortion.
Sorry, Senator, but he's a voter in this case. The reason it matters,
John, I just wanted to finish this point.
Is he's a voter. Go ahead.
Well, of course it matters what his position is, and I'm sure that he's going to say what his position ultimately is, John. But I do think it's important to say that between Republicans and Democrats have talked about trying to defund Christian hospitals that don't do late term. Donald Trump is trying to preserve some ability for the states to make these decisions. It is a very different approach to a highly contentious issue. I actually think what Donald Trump is trying to do is identify some common ground so that we can focus on the big national questions like why can't America...
They're so cooked, dude. They're so goddamn cooked. Rewind, you just missed the gem. Wait, he said shut up?
Important to remember, of course, that Kamala Harris has come out for taxpayer-funded abortion.
Sorry, Senator, but he's a voter in this case. The reason it matters in Florida is he's a voter. Go ahead.
No, he said shit. Go ahead.
Well, of course it matters what his position is, and I'm sure that he's going to say what his position ultimately is, John. But I do think it's important to say that between Republicans and Democrats have talked about trying to defund Christian hospitals that don't do late term. Donald Trump is trying to preserve some ability for the states to make these decisions. It is a very different approach to a highly contentious issue. I actually think what Donald Trump is trying to do is identify some common ground so that we can focus on the big national questions like why can't Americans afford groceries and housing? That's what we're going to focus on when we win in November.
The former president, announced yesterday that he wants insurers or the government to pay for IVF. How?
Well, he's been consistent again in this, John, that he wants people to be able to afford to have families. And it's one of the reasons why we've supported an extended child tax credit that Donald Trump actually got done. He didn't just talk about it, he got it done.
Why are people so angry with conciliatory positions? Isn't both sides trying to be more moderate around contentious issues like immigration a really good thing for the country? I'm going to ask you a very simple question. If one side is saying we need to 12 million migrants that are currently on living on U.S. soil but don't have citizenship, and the other side says, nah, let's just 6 million of them, do you think that we've arrived at a conciliatory position on a contentious issue? Or do you think that the situation is completely... No, I'm asking you. Like, this is an analogy, okay? That's not the exact position of the Republican Party, nor is it the exact position of the Democratic Party. This is the problem with the argument that you're making, okay? Bipartisanship, compromise, and reaching a conciliatory and analyzing the actual impact is going to lead you astray. Do you understand? Do you get it? Why are you saying we shouldn't let anybody love peace? Some people want people, other people want less people. We should reach the middle, right? Turns out you don't want to be conciliatory on that front. Compromise and bipartisanship is not a virtuous position across the board. This is at the heart of why American politics is so... One side never actually wants to compromise. The other side claims compromise is the most important thing. That's how you slowly but surely go more right-wing positions. All right? Once this video is over, we're going to do the census.
He supported a whole host of policies to make it easier for women to choose life, to bring new life into the world. And this is just part and parcel of his broader view that if we want to have more, and I think all of us do, we have to empower young women and young families to make those choices and to have access to what they need. You know this, John. I'm sure everybody who's watching has dealt with somebody, a friend or a family member who's struggling with infertility. It's a terrible, terrible problem that a lot of young families...
All right, fuck it. All right, let's do the census.
Begin with the race for the White House. Vice President Harris sitting down for her first interview since taking over at the Democratic candidate, along with her running mate Tim Walz and former President Donald Trump attempting to rebrand his image on reproductive rights.
Our chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce starts in Savannah, where Harris held a rally on Thursday. Mary, good morning.
Good morning, Whit. Well, last night, this was the first time that we have heard from Kamala Harris in an in-depth interview like this since she was catapulted to the top of the ticket. She was methodical in her answers, with Tim Walz by her side there defending her record with President Biden, but making it clear she's eager to turn the page. Nearly 6 weeks into her campaign, Kamala Harris overnight forced to explain her policy shifts, but arguing one thing has not changed.
I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed.
Asked if she still wants to ban fracking, something she'd vowed in 2019, Harris saying this.
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking.
And on whether she stands by her 2019 support for decriminalizing illegal border crossings.
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws. that have to be followed and enforced. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted trans.
Yeah. Yeah. We shouldn't decriminalize border crossings. We should go even further. We should them. And my bill will do just that. Great stuff from the supposedly left side of American politics.
National criminal organizations who traffic in guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws, and I would enforce our laws as president going forward. I recognize the problem.
Running mate Tim Walz forced to explain what the Trump campaign has criticized as his misleading statements about his military service and his family's struggle with infertility.
I think people know who I am. They know that record. They've seen that. I've taught thousands of students. I've been out there. And I won't apologize for speaking passionately, whether it's guns in schools or protecting of reproductive rights.
And for the first time, Harris recalling that surprise Sunday morning phone call from the president, informing her he was dropping out of the race.
My family was staying with us, and including my baby nieces, and we had just had pancakes, and we were sitting down to do a puzzle.
I'm going to throw up. I don't care about this.
And the phone rang, and it was Joe Biden. I asked him, "Are you sure?" And he said yes. And that's how I learned about it.
Asked if he offered his endorsement.
Oh, the last thing I want to show is this is if Israel was a person.
When you were pushing me and yelling at me, that wasn't nice, right?
Police! Police!
Guys, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Example. Live. Right here. Example of what they do.
Everything on camera.
Oh, look at this guy. He's now, you raped somebody. You rapist. Oh, really? You again. You rapist.
Bro, I swear to God, defenders of Israel literally think it's West Bank everywhere. Okay? They straight up think that, like, oh no, this is exactly the same. Like, if I call the Israeli occupying force, they'll come and clean this up. Like, they'll just go and the Palestinians that are in my vicinity. Where's the census is coming up right now.
Let's go back. Let's go back. For your safety, let's go back. For your safety, let's go back.
It's wild that, like, it is truly wild to me that anyone who is, like, even remotely a defender of Israel has the audacity to call someone else a rapist and rape defender is crazy. It is, like, there are literally pro-rape riots that took place. Israeli society, by and large, does not think that the rapist concentration camp prison guards should be criminalized for their rape against the Palestinians that they've detained. And these guys are literally being like, oh, no, you are the rapist. You are the rapist. It's like the negligence from mainstream media on this process is straight up criminal, okay? Straight up criminal. Oh, yes, the rapist prison guard, the main rapist prison guard is now straight up a television star, okay?
All right, we've been waiting for it. In her first official interview since becoming the Democrat presidential nominee, Kamala Harris, promising a new way forward despite her role as vice president for the last 3.5 years.
And Harris is facing some criticism over having running mate Tim Walz by her side. But her campaign insists she will do a solo interview.
So the vice president defending her policy flip-flops on issues like the climate and the border while struggling to lay out her day one agenda.
First and foremost, one of my highest priorities is to do what we can to support and strengthen the middle class. When I look at the aspirations, the goals, the ambitions of the American people, I think that people are ready for a new way forward. Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families. I made that clear on the debate stage in 20.
That may literally be true. Gremlin was talking to a journalist this morning that was talking about how some of the laws that around propaganda that came up after World War II, journalists providing cover for war crimes may be liable under those laws. Yeah, except the United States of America is not going to stop being the superpower, okay? Nazis lost World War II. That's why some of the journalists that carried water for their crimes were, you know, prosecuted for propaganda.
2020, that I would not ban fracking. As vice president, I did not ban fracking. As president, I will not ban fracking. I believe it is very important that we take seriously what we must do to guard against what is a clear crisis in terms of the climate. I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed. So that is the reality of it.
A layup. I mean, this is the question every politician gets.
Sure.
What are you going to do on day one? And I mean, I'm not just talking about the presidency. They have Senate candidates, congressional. What do you do on day one? Right. What she gave us was a dream.
Right.
Like, as if she had control of Congress. They had a bill ready for her on day one. Not what she plans on doing from a ceremonial standpoint, those bills that they're going to sign once she's sworn in. And it just shows you when it comes to preparation, she's not prepared for even what she's going to do on day one. How can we trust a 4-year administration?
Yeah, Donald Trump was asked that question, and he had very clear answers of the executive orders that he would sign
Said it many
if he
times.
did that. And she also did not do a good job when Dana Bash went back and asked her and said, well, a lot of people will say, why haven't
One issue I face a lot when talking about social issues that people respond to focus individual accountability. Do you think is a generational difference that'll solve itself? I don't know how to answer this question.
You've done this already. You are the vice president. She didn't have a lot to say there. She also flip-flopped, you guys, on a very important topic and for a very important state called Pennsylvania. So here she is talking about fracking.
What she said, these are some of the things that we would refer to as flip-flops, but last night she referred to them as, you know what? I still have the same values. For instance, in 2019, and we played a moment ago, that soundbite when she was running in the primary, she endorsed a nationwide ban on oil and gas fracking. We know that. Now the campaign has come out and said she does not support a total ban on fracking. And then when it comes to the border, in 2019, when asked which candidates believe crossing the border without documentation should be a civil offense, Kamala Harris raised her hand. However, today, Kamala Harris's campaign, now that she's running for president, says quite simply, unauthorized border crossings are illegal. Essentially, with those 2 topics right there, I think we saw a preview of the presidential debate when it comes to fracking and when it comes to the border, because she was unequivocal last night. She said, as president, I will not ban fracking. And she talked a little bit about the Inflation Reduction Act, which she broke the tie in the Senate, actually expanded fracking leases. And then when it comes to the topic of the border, we've heard this a million times. She talked about how she, as president, would sign the bipartisan border bill once it got through the House and the Senate. And she told the story about how the former president saw that it would probably helped Joe Biden and said, hey, guys, on the Republican side, let's not pass that.
Well, but if you dig into that bill, that bill is really about more money going to NGOs to make the processing of more illegals over the quicker, so the press isn't seeing everything that's happening.
And the cap with the crossing is a fake cap. It's still catch and release as well. But back to the fracking thing, she doesn't explain the change of position. So, Madam Vice President, you cast that vote. Why did you do that? Is it just because you were vice president and you were carrying out what the commander-in-chief, Joe Biden, says? But, Madam President, Vice President, you're going to be in the chair, or at least you hope to be in the chair. So do you go back to your original position in 2019? That follow-up is critical because it's a difference when you're the vice president and you have to work, or a cabinet member, and you work within the system. Your job is to serve at the pleasure of the president. And it looks like that her positions, her gut instinct is to be much more progressive.
Yeah, no question. Well, you had Lara Trump on.
Oh my God, Brian is gone. Oh my God, Brian me. Oh my God. Did he do it? He did it.
Earlier in the show, and you got her reaction, so here that is.
The mad lad.
It feels like Kamala Harris is running for junior class president versus president of the United States. You got no specifics whatsoever. And there was not a moment that I watched that interview and I, as an American citizen, felt confident that this is a person who understands the job of president of the United States, has a true plan of action to do anything for America, could negotiate with the world leaders on behalf of me as a citizen and this country. And I think it's kind of what we've come to expect from Kamala Harris.
Junior class president. Maybe that's why she was that.
Oh my God. Bro, I swear to God, she sounds like Cinna. Cinna sounds like Laura Trump. Close your eyes and listen.
Could negotiate with the world leaders on behalf of me as a citizen and this country. And I think it's kind of what we've come to expect from Kamala Harris.
Oh my God. Bro, Cinna sounds like Laura Trump. Okay. I rest my case. I rest my case, dude. I stand corrected when I said what I said.
Down to him, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I
like
think
they were kindergartners.
You got to figure they went to a school because he was a teacher and he was a coach and all that stuff. I will say this about Tim Walz. He's really good at smiling and nodding. Because we thought, if she got into a word salad problem, he would jump in.
Well, he couldn't.
As it turns out, last night.
I stand correct, not corrected. You're right.
He was only when Kamala Harris was asked that, and Lawrence, I think you referred to it as a layup question. What are you going to do on day one? Dana Bash asked that question. We've asked that question. She asked it. Kamala Harris did not answer it, and so Dana asked her again. You didn't answer my question. What would you say? Listen, you only got like 20 minutes. You're not going to waste a lot of time. So she turned to Tim Walz and asked him, what are you going to do on the first day?
She should have stayed.
He didn't really answer it.
She should have stayed with Kamala. Yeah. And you know what you see here, too, you guys have seen those hearings in Congress where the witness just needs to, fill up the time for the 5 minutes.
It's crazy that, this was probably the most, right-wing framed interview that CNN could possibly give without being like, Kamala Harris, why are you lying that you're black, you're Indian? The only thing that Dana Bash could have done that's more right-wing than what she did was to literally just be like, Kamala Harris, why are you lying to the American public that you're a black woman? We all know you're Indian. You know what I mean? And these still make it seem like it's a softball. Dave Weigel, I think, had a great take here. First day question is for executive orders, and it's really awkward for a VP to get asked that because the president could literally do the EOs she wanted, so he thought it was a question. No, I don't think it's a question. She should be popping off on that front. Be like, I'm not Biden, I don't have a problem with her separating herself from Biden. That is actually why she has so much momentum. She is not Biden.
Monologue.
That's what I felt like was happening. She was talking slowly. She was using as many words as possible. But it was intentional to fill up the time because she knew this was only going to be a 20-some minute interview.
And also to that point, Rachel, Walz, the governor, he couldn't save himself. I mean, there was a moment there where he had to explain while he went out publicly and talked about his military service and the IVF and all that, and to just say it's grammatical errers.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, he was able to work in the fact his wife's an English teacher.
That's what I didn't find it cute. I really did not. It was, you had how many days to come up with an explanation to why you lied to the American people and you let down a lot of troops. People will.
This is so funny. If this is something that he says all the time, you would have more than one clip, chimp. I know exactly what this is because it happens to me all the time. More frequently than you see the top of the hour ad break. People will regularly clip me out of context in one moment and then constantly be like, see, this represents all of your world beliefs over and over and over again. And it's like, if that was a genuine thing that I said, if that was a only reading Twitter XD, I mean, that's one of them. But if that was the only thing that I always said, you would have more than one clip. You know how absolutely up you got to be for someone like Kim Jong-un to say something like this? North Korea says Israel's a bandit and barbaric state. 700,000 likes. Holy.
Accept an apology. But he didn't provide that.
No.
Well, the campaign they were very risk averse. And what Dana Bash asked the questions we wanted answers to. but they just gave as innocuous an answer as they possibly could. But as I said earlier, I think it is, if I'm the Trump campaign, I just got a little view of how they're going to answer fracking and how they are going to answer the border. And we're going to talk to Senator J.D. Vance, who's running for vice president. Let's see, about 49 minutes from right now, right here on the Fox News Channel. I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.